Hello,
Hello.
how's it going?
Okay.
Yeah,
You?
eh, all right. You seem tired.
Yeah, it's been a pretty bad week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Hopefully, some science chat will help with our
Yeah,
mood a little bit.
maybe. Yeah. It's been very hot. At least the week started off pretty hot, but yay, summer, but a lot of bad stuff, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's been pretty hard to
looks like.
stay motivated.
Huh?
It's been pretty hard to stay
Yeah,
motivated and get work done.
you've been pretty active though with grant writing and stuff. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, we had two grant proposals that we submitted over the past 2 weeks. Some COVID-related research, which is not my field of expertise, but definitely something I'm passionate about for communities that are of interest to me in the Caribbean. So, yeah, we wrote a COVID-related grant, well, two COVID-related grants for some Caribbean countries. So we'll hear those results in 2 weeks. It was
Nice.
actually really interesting um, to partner, to start a partnership with these Caribbean leaders and to also dive into the the science of COVID and how disparities play out with COVID. It was quite interesting to dive into that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask how your group and you are getting into the whole COVID uh, stuff because, like you said, it's not exactly your area of expertise, but you clearly have some skills and tools that would be useful. So I guess it's through a partnership, then, is what you were saying.
Yeah, I can't talk too much about it because it's not funded yet. Hopefully it will be. And then we could talk a lot more about it, obviously. But yeah, what I can say is that um, we partnered with a few leaders in a few Caribbean islands because the situation there actually isn't as bad that for at least for COVID cases, it's not as bad. Thankfully, for some Caribbean islands, Jamaica, however, is hit pretty hard. But the economy is what's going to suffer in the Caribbean because in the Caribbean it's tourist related, and with COVID, it's not like you can travel and contribute to the those islands in the Caribbean. So um, we were really looking at it from that angle and how COVID is really affecting um, the Caribbean economies and also from a health angle. So, like, what's happening with immunity levels, perhaps, for COVID in the Caribbean? What will happen if we get a second wave of COVID in the Caribbean, and how can we um, work around that? So yeah, that's really the angle that we were looking at it at. But obviously, I can't say much more
Yeah,
until it gets funded. Hopefully, they get funded.
yeah,
But yeah.
yeah. That's interesting though for listeners probably the way that research groups sort of like meet each other and if you have something you want to do, how to like network and all that stuff. It's interesting. That's not very common for people in my field to do that kind of thing. So
Yeah, yeah,
they're
yeah. So
usually
that's
blind.
really what's been. Pardon?
Oh, I was just saying we
Yeah.
usually we just do our stuff in isolation. We just do our solo stuff.
Oh, yeah, yeah. My lab is very not solo, highly collaborative. My research, but amidst all of the crap that's going on right now, it's still. I was actually filling out. So okay, I'm all over the place. So my research involves humans. And obviously, if you're doing research in humans, you have to get ethics approval. So I was looking over, you have to review the ethics approval every year, just to ensure that you are doing your research ethically. And I was working on our ethics approval this week and just looking at the different aims and objectives that we set out for our ethics approval. And like looking at the objectives, I felt pretty happy that I have met, or not just me, but our research group has met most of the objectives that we set out. And it's very easy for me to feel during this PhD process that, oh, I'm not doing anything, I'm not contributing much, making no progress, where are the papers? um, so it was it felt really good to actually write, oh, we have actually achieved this particular objective, we've met this objective, we've done this, so that was pretty good to see and to feel this week. It's not a feeling that I felt too often of,
Oh,
research
that's good.
success or whatever. Yeah, yeah. So it was
You
pretty
look
good
like a
to.
little,
Pardon?
I was saying, yeah, being able to like do a little retrospective and even just like updating your CV if that's something that you have been putting off, it probably is going to make you feel pretty good. You kind of get lost
Yeah,
in doing the work, and some of that stuff slips through the cracks. It's probably a nice
yeah,
habit to get into.
yeah. hmm Yeah, but this week in particular was just not great. The last 2 weeks really, but this week overall was just not good. Like watching the news and just being inundated with what's happening um, in North America and also even in Toronto. Like yeah,
Yeah,
it's a lot. And then having to deal with being at home, working at home, like during a pandemic, like my energy levels have not been peak, to be honest.
yeah. I mean, it makes sense. You just feel so helpless when you can't even really go outside, and then all this stuff on top of it. Oh well.
Yeah. Um,
Let's see. Oh, you good?
we're back.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
So, I think we were discussing. Maybe I was going to update you on the first year labs that have been
Well, yeah,
underway with the
the
department.
physics labs, yeah. How are those been going?
Yeah, that's actually it's been a nice thing to be a part of. They are submitting their second lab this week, and so I've had some office hours over Zoom, helping them with their first labs, and I think it's going really well. So we're still finalizing some of the last experiments, but it's been fun to see the pictures trickle in. So part of the labs that we've requested is that they send a picture of the experiment that they build, is partially just to see like that they're doing it, actually doing it, and then just to see how they solve little problems here and there. But it seems like they're having fun with it. The first lab, they measured acceleration of gravity pretty accurately. Like the actual number is 9.8 meters per second squared, and most of them were like within about half a meter per second squared, which is pretty cool. They just set up a camera and drop a ball a couple times.
Hmm
And we're showing them how to go frame by frame and take these like detailed measurements with just their iPhone or whatever.
What kind of camera are they using to get frame? Like how?
Just their cell phone cameras. They'll take a video of them dropping an object and then import it into like QuickTime or something. And if you know what the frame rate is of your camera, which you can look up in properties and whatever, then you can see the distance it travels every frame, and then sort of they end up getting like pretty accurate and reliable data that way, which is pretty cool to see.
hmm.
We just finished writing up one where they're going to do the same sort of thing, but with audio data. That was the bouncing ball lab. So that one's coming up, and it's pretty good. Yeah, so it's been nice. I was asked recently to write a little um, piece for the physics department newsletter. So I had, similar to what you were saying, with your, somewhat of a retrospective. I had to go back and look at the where we started and where we're at now, and kind of do a summary of all of the stuff that we've accomplished. And I don't know, it was a feel good moment, I suppose. So that's been pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to focus on the positives as much as I can. Yeah, because throughout COVID, my paper finally um, was published, so that's great. um,
It's awesome.
yeah, yeah. At some point, I'm gonna do a Twitter thread of just positive things to try to feel motivated somehow. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. How did the experiment with?
Probably,
Pardon?
sorry.
No, go.
I was going to say that I find when a project is completed, like when the thing finally gets published, there's like a low period for me as well. So that's probably not helping. That's probably just adding on to all of the other stuff.
hmm And it's really, I don't think it's healthy of me, but I work in like these spurts of productivity, and I don't do a consistent type of workflow. I just do like
Mhm.
peak work, okay, nothing, work, work, like that. So
Yeah.
after those grants were in, because I was so much stress to coordinate, not to coordinate, but to work with this big team of researchers, not in Canada, and just everything virtually, trying to put together this grant proposal. These two grant
Mhm.
proposals, sorry, trying to, get that done. And also um, a few of my other research items, like that was just a lot. So I was like a peak, and now I'm kind of back down in the, okay, let me try to catch myself. Um,
Mhm.
but I still have so much to do, obviously. So I think I'm now climbing back up to another peak, or at least I was trying to. Um, but yeah, I think I'm back down in the slump right now until
Yeah.
I can regain energy to get back up.
Well, I think maybe academia and research work like this, it almost forces you into those spurts. Like, you don't always have something that you can work on 9 to 5 and then take a break. A lot of the time, the deadlines come up so quickly, and you really do have to binge work. It might not be the most sustainable way of going about it, but it's, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think you're alone in that. I think just being being accepting of the workflow and
yeah,
being gentle with yourself or whatever is probably the
yeah.
best.
Are you still hoping to finish this summer?
Uh, I think I'm gonna be pushed off to December.
Mm,
Yeah, I sort of worked out that deal with my supervisor to work on these labs over the summer and just put all of the research on hold until September,
yeah,
and then hopefully it'll be. Yeah, I don't know. Getting back into is going to be tough. I haven't thought about my research all summer, and it's hard to regain motivation whenever. Yeah, I don't know.
yeah. Yeah, like, are you going to resume? Because labs are opening back up shortly from next week. Like, what's happening for your research group?
Yeah, so that's still kind of up in the air. So there are some limited access labs right now in the physics department. Um, I think the way that it's going right now is we have to provide a full plan to the university of how we're going to implement, distancing and cleaning and everything when we do open up. In theory, I think we could have limited access starting next month, but me personally, all of my experiments are for the most part done. Um, and we've taught our supervisor, my group and I, thank you. um, and he's very much on the side of, if you have any concerns whatsoever, or if anything doesn't seem good, then don't come in. Like, don't push it. We're going to try to open up for the people who really want to come in and are able to. But if you have like any inkling that it's not the right time to come in for you, or if like commuting is going to be tough, like, don't bother. This is definitely not the time to be testing the waters in that sense. So I probably won't be going to campus for quite a while.
Yeah.
At least until maybe or so.
Yeah, my supervisor is filling out the forms for us to go back in. Though, like my work, like you, I don't have to do, like, maybe I have one or two experiments, but they don't have to be done now. Like, most of my data has been generated. I'm analyzing those data, doing as much computer work as possible. I want to hopefully push out 2 manuscripts this summer. Well, at least within the next 2 months, really. So, which is like, thinking about it gives me anxiety. But I'm working towards getting some publications this summer. Let's just say. So I don't need lab work to get those done.
That's good.
But I'm also the senior in the lab, so I need to, go at least to make sure that everything is, fine. Our liquid nitrogen is getting filled up, making sure the lab is clean so that when people start using the lab again, it's fine. So yeah, I still have to go to the lab, though it's not crucial for me at the moment. Yeah.
And you could probably do it in off hours or in smaller doses or something like that. You won't have to spend hours and hours there with other people, probably.
No. Well, yeah, there's one other graduate student in the lab.
That's good.
Who is also my housemate, so we don't need to do staggering of times to get into the lab.
Okay.
Or maybe I don't know. We'll see what the department says, because you have to fill out the form. Right? We put that in the form, like, hey, we're housemates, so we can go in at the same time. But I don't know, maybe they might not agree with that. So we'll really see whatever they say. Yeah. This is such a weird thing to be. Pardon?
I'm just hoping that people aren't getting pressured to go back too soon. That's my number one concern.
Yeah. I also agree with that. It's such a weird time to be existing in.
Yeah. I brought a little sciencey demo thing that I found on Twitter if you want to be distracted.
Which sciencey demo thing?
I found a little experiment that demonstrates some cool geometry and physics if you want a little diversion.
Do I need to do anything?
Nope. It's all right here. Okay, so what you see before you is a bunch of pasta, broken up, hard, in a circular pan. And so maybe I'll try to sell this like an infomercial. How many times have you had disorganized pasta that you just needed to get all lined up in the same direction? Well, have I got a solution for you? So the physical principle that's happening here is, I haven't done a ton of reading on it, but I have a couple guesses. The first thing is that you'll notice that these are all roughly the same length and, they have a long shape. They're not circular or anything like that. So I think that plays into it. Another important fact is the roundness of the pan, I think, plays a role as well. But what I think really defines how this process happens, as you can see, they're starting to organize and self-arrange. I think what's really happening here is, I think this would not work if we didn't have gravity acting. I think what's happening is that gravity's pulling all of these individual pieces downwards. And so as you shake it, they all want to get to the bottom of the pan if they can. And so that's forcing them to pack in an efficient way. Basically, if you have a bunch of pasta lying flat, they're as low to the ground as possible, and so they're the happiest. Gravity is acting to pull them like that. If you have a bunch stacked, they're higher now in this orientation than they would be if they were lying in between the different strands. Does that make sense? If you have like two next to each other, you could put one in between the two, and it'll be slightly lower than the other ones.
Right.
And so the shaking of this pan, basically if they're all oriented crazy, you can kind of think of this as being like, if you think like molecules or something, the shaking is like thermal motion. It's just random movements that allow them to move a little bit in any direction, basically, some random direction. So if you do it enough, eventually the gravitational pull, to reduce the amount of potential energy, all of these things want to get to the lowest state. That's for
those ones in this. Yeah.
Those guys?
I want to see. Wow. Yeah, it just did it perfectly.
Yeah.
Is there like because physics has a theory or like a name, something for everything? Like what's the name of this? Like what law? I think that's what I'm looking for. What law does this fall under?
So the way I would try to model it, so I'm going to be doing a little bit more with this to try to figure it out for myself. But my working theory is this is just a, what would you call that? Basically like a energy minimization principle. So there's the whole idea of potential energy, like to lift, you're storing potential energy. And so when you drop it, the potential energy turns into kinetic energy. So I think that's what's driving all of this for the most part. There's extra potential energy stored in the noodles when they're not closely packed. And so by agitating them and giving them a chance to move around and reorganize a little bit, they end up finding this minimized energy. And so this like energy minimization principle is super important in like chemistry. That's what ends up driving a lot of reactions. And it's used to describe all sorts of stuff. It's like a very fundamental sciencey principle, I think, is a way to say that. But yeah, I'm going to be playing around with that a little bit more, I think, if I have time.
You're going to what? Oh, if you have time.
Play around with it a little bit more. And I'm going to try using a different pan, see if the circularness matters.
Or the depth of it also? Like if it's a deeper pan, like will that probably will have something to do with it.
I would think so too. I think the thing, so if my theory of how this works is correct, I think if I had thicker noodles that are still round, that would probably cause the whole process to happen faster. Because I think the noodle could drop more by reorienting.
I think
so if they're in a non... Yeah, you think so?
I'm thinking of like those like big hollow noodles. If you had those like in a big pan, I think it'll be harder to orient them. Just because of their length. Like it will take longer for a sideways noodle to turn straight, I think.
True, that's a good point. So their aspect ratio is also going to be really important. And that's going to be like a combination of, so I'm thinking like a really narrow but long one that's like very thin and long. Mm-hmm. It's harder for it to rotate, like you said. So that's going to slow the process down. But I'm thinking once it's in the correct orientation, it's going to lock in there a lot easier and like more permanently.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it'll speed up in that, like, once it finds the happy spot, it won't ever get jostled out of that.
Hmm.
A lot of things to try here.
Many things.
I think this is
Yeah.
very similar to, I don't know if you've heard of like the Brazil nut demo. Basically, if you have like mixed nuts and you put them in like a jar or something and you shake, 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 the nuts will basically stratify. You'll get the layers.
Really?
Each nut will have its own layer based on its density.
Have you seen this done, or is this like theoretical?
No, that's real.
But okay, but like when they're in transit between trucks, like are they like being shaken all the time, like to the grocery store? Like why doesn't this just happen? Because they're being transported for at least 400 kilometers sometimes from the production to the grocery store. Like why does that just happen when the nuts are delivered? Do they just
Yeah, that's a really good
reshake them at the store so they look random?
point. I'm thinking that the vibration and the shaking in transit, it probably on average isn't large enough to really get them to reorient.
Mm,
Like, if you were to like do a full grab it and shake it,
mm.
that would definitely get them to jostle around. But if you're just sort of vibrating them a little bit, it takes quite a bit of energy to actually get them to move around. Like to get one marble to roll over another marble. Um,
Hmm.
I think that if instead you had like different types of sand or something, then that kind of shaking would be enough to get them to reorient.
Because they're smaller?
Yeah,
Cool.
that's my theory.
Physics.
I'm sure somebody's worked all of this out, but where's the fun in just looking up the answer?
Right?
Why not just agonize over it for a couple of weeks?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, you could probably model this because you model everything. Like not runway
I'm,
model, but like model.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about how I would do that. I would probably have to like define how one moves on its own when you shake it around. That would be easy, but then getting a second one in there and defining how it's supposed to interact with another one and then the walls. I think computationally it would get like pretty tough and out of my league,
Mm.
but maybe somebody's already done it and maybe I can find that. In
Maybe
that
that
case, I don't mind.
maybe that was someone's PhD.
Probably.
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody solved the Brazil nut problem and has a nice simulation.
Mm. Yeah. Wow. A whole different world than what I'm
Yeah.
accustomed to. Yeah.
Science parlor tricks, basically.
Hmm. Also, I don't know if you saw, but the GSA is bringing back Taps and Tails. I also don't even know if you have heard of Taps and Tails,
Oh, yeah.
but yeah, so we're bringing it back virtually. So if you know anyone or if you want to give a presentation, message the GSA and we will work it out for you
Yeah.
and anyone else that you
I'll
know. Yeah.
definitely signal boost that. Do they want specifically Mac students, or would they be interested in having like a guest come in every once in a while? Probably Mac students, yeah.
Right now we're focusing on Mac students. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But we're also, hosting other online events for graduate students. So yeah, maybe we can have guests come in for other events. But yeah, I will
Cool.
send the link your way or if there's anyone watching right now from McMaster that wants to give some kind of talk. It doesn't have to be science, it can be anything. Science, business, humanities, whatever research you do at McMaster, you can give a virtual talk through the GSA. And yeah, yeah. So just check your GSA email and you'll see the information there.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. Wow, like it's 1:30. How?
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know where the time went.
Well, this seems like a pretty good point to wrap it up then.
Yeah. Yeah, I
It was
have a
nice
few other
seeing you.
meetings. Yeah, it's been maybe over a month since we did a live.
Yeah, I think so. I
Yeah.
think I've just been posting pre-recorded stuff in the last little while.
Yeah. 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 We'll see if next week is a better week for,
Fingers crossed.
yeah, I can only hope.
The world. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, try to take it easy.
Yeah.
Don't overdo it.
See ya.
See you next week.
Bye.